Hello, my dear friends. I welcome you all to EduTap. Today I have with me Mr. Vikram Joshi. He is a newly selected SEBI Grade A officer. Warm welcome, Mr. Vikram.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for inviting me here. I'm glad to be on this platform.
We are glad to have you here today. I would like to just give you a brief introduction. I would rather you only give your introduction because you have a lot of things in your kitty to tell, right?
Sure, ma'am. I'll try to do that. So I graduated in the year 2016 from a reputed college in Bangalore. And since then, I was preparing for the UPSC and I gave three different attempts. So when I realized that I was not able to clear the mains in 2018, I decided to give a kickstart to my career. I thought that there was a lot of gap after education, which is not a very healthy sign. So I joined a private company in Bangalore. And that's when I decided that I can give other exams other than UPSC. So I gave SSC CGL, I gave a State Bank of India and Karnataka Bank and ESIC, and I cleared quite a few of these exams. And I decided to join State Bank of India in the year 2020 in February. So that was just a few weeks, I would say, few weeks before the COVID lockdown. So I had shifted to Mumbai for the SBI job, and a few months later, I resigned from there and I joined ESIC since I got selected in ESIC as well. And I came back to Bangalore. And that was a huge blessing in disguise for me because it was a home posting, which gave me a lot of time to manage preparation along with work. So since July 2020, I've been working in ESIC and I cleared SEBI Grade A Assistant Manager for the year 2020. And also I've been selected for the NABARD interview that I'll be giving in the next month, hopefully.
Wonderful to hear all that. So guys, candidates all out there, I want to tell you all here, Mr. Vikram has a wide experience of the government exams, RBI Grade B, right? Then the SEBI Grade A, NABARD Grade A, UPSC he has given. So obviously you have a lot of things today to know from him. I would also like to tell you all that while bagging this job for SEBI Grade A, he was working with the ESIC. So we also have questions for you, Mr. Vikram, for the working candidates. Because you have worked in SBI, then you were working in ESIC, and now you are going to join SEBI. And as you said, even interview for NABARD is awaited. You've got the call, but the dates are not yet out. So we will ask all the questions to you about the strategy, right? Anything you would like to share about your background or about yourself with our candidates or with the students who are watching this video?
So nothing in specific, ma'am. I feel I have covered all the relevant aspects when I gave a brief introduction about myself and my journey with government exams.
Right. So Mr. Vikram, he is from Bangalore. He's based out there only. And he has done his BTech. That is what I wanted to tell. This you have also told, right? 2016.
Yes, I covered that aspect.
The engineering student, now SEBI officer. So, let's start. So please tell us, how did you come to know about SEBI? UPSC is a very common exam. Like a lot, it is a popular exam, I would say, rather than common. So we expect people to know about UPSC, right? But how did you come to know about SEBI?
So actually, my journey with regulatory body exams started in the year 2019 when I was working in the private sector, and one of my friends suggested that we prepare for RBI Grade B exam, and he had suggested the course of EduTap. So I came to know that along with RBI, there are two more exams as well in the regulatory body area, that is NABARD and the SEBI. So in the year 2019, the SEBI notification was not out, or else I had planned to give SEBI in that year only, since it had a lot of overlapping areas along with RBI Grade B syllabus. But in the year 2020, when I newly shifted to Mumbai, that is when the SEBI Grade A notification was out, and there was very less time between the notification and the prelims mains. And I remember there were only 3 weeks for the form to be filled from the date of notification. So I decided that, okay, I'm not going to prepare for this because the syllabus has been completely changed. It was not that what I was expecting and what the candidates had known for the previous year exam. But when the lockdown was imposed and when I learned that the whole process, that is the last date of notification, that was extended in phases of 2 to 2 months. It happened, I think 3, 4 times it happened. So that's when I decided to prepare for SEBI. And I got hold of the EduTap course, which was a constant partner for me throughout my preparation phase.
And one more thing, the trail question comes here is that the preparation of SEBI is different, quite different, because the subjects which are here, even for that matter, RBI or NABARD, they still have a lot of sync with other government exams. You can say ESI, English, QRE, but SEBI has specifically paper two subjects which are not very common or not asked in different examinations. So how did you cope up with those subjects?
So my earlier reaction to the notification, as I said, it was totally pessimistic. I realized that I may not be able to manage the whole syllabus, but I was able to get hold of the EduTap course, which helped me to concisely cover the syllabus right from scratch. And since I was already familiar with the whole procedure of government exams, I had this ability that was cultivated over a few years to read and grasp a wide range of subjects. So that was certainly a confidence booster. And when I started the preparation with the costing subject, I realized that it's not very difficult because there were the video classes also. So in case I was not able to understand a concept, I would just go through the video and then try and understand the theory. And that is how I managed, right from costing and then commerce and accountancy, and then economics, which was different from the Indian economy that we study in UPSC, because here it's all about economic concepts. So it's more of pure economics rather than applied. And then there was companies law, which I felt was one of the driest subjects, to be honest, because it did not involve much of application. It was mostly just mugging up sections of the act. And anyways, finance and management I had already studied for my 2019 RBI Grade B mains, which I had failed to clear by about 10 marks. So because of that familiarity with two subjects and the eventual fact that I covered up the 4 subjects, I was able to give the exam with confidence.
So your what I could get is that you followed one source, that is the course that you had, and you covered it really well. There is no need of going to multiple sources to cover one specific subject. Is it what would you advise? Or if students want, they can refer to multiple, they can be books or multiple courses also, because this is one question we get a lot. Students are not confident about only one material or one source.
So coming from a non-commerce background, I felt that one dedicated course package really helped in covering the whole length and breadth of the syllabus. But in case I had any doubts, I just used to put in the comment section of the course bundle of the specific video lecture, or I would just go to YouTube and search that concept. And if I came across any video lecture, I would just try and understand it more. But what I felt was that the course can be covered from one source. There is no need to refer to those specified subject-specific books as well. But I feel that when it comes to mock tests, if you have more than one source for the mock test, it's really helpful, because certainly IBPS, while setting the paper, will not rely on any one specific coaching institute material or the kind of mocks that they have. So that's what I would suggest to aspirants, to keep more than one source for the mock test, but one source for understanding the concepts is more than enough.
Okay. And what difference did you find in phase 1 and phase 2 for paper 2 specifically, all the subjects that you, because preparation is to be like the unified preparation, we cannot be separate because the syllabus is same, subjects are same, but still the level difference.
Yeah, so what I realized that was in paper 2 of phase 1, they had, I feel that it's because IBPS was conducting the exam with the new syllabus for the first time. So I felt that they had diverted from the subject. They had asked all kind of questions, and even those peripheral areas, which I think EduTap made a video of that. Anshit sir had made a video suggesting these additional readings might have to be done for paper 2 in mains, which consisted of taxation and Indian Evidence Act, Contracts Act, Partnership Act, and GST Act, and those areas as well. But in paper 2 of phase 2, EduTap actually they stuck to the syllabus. So, and I'm really glad that happened. The level of questions were of a high quality, But since they stuck to the syllabus, it really helped in clearing the exam without too many glitches. Since I had a good revision of the basics for all the subjects, so that was the main difference.
So the point, what the takeaway for the students is that they have a hold over the subjects if they prepare really well, so they can manage phase one also. There is, if at all phase one is going to be different, the questions are going to be different. It will be for everyone. You don't need to do specific other things. Prepare for your phase two, keeping that in mind. Your phase one will also be covered within that. Can we say that safely?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the one of the best parts of SEBI. Even if you compare it with RBI, the syllabus for phase two is different from the syllabus of phase one. And even in NABARD up to some extent. But you can say that with the new pattern that they came up with this year, they have followed the SEBI pattern of keeping the core syllabus same for phase one and phase two. So that's the advantage.
Okay. And would you also like to give us some tips on the English descriptive paper, because we'll cover the phase two part with this.
So actually, to be honest, I'm not very happy with the way English descriptive evaluation is done in IBPS exams. So if you see this year's IBPS PO notification, it clearly says that any descriptive English is evaluated mechanically. There is absolutely no manual intervention. The negative aspect of this is that the content will not matter. Even very basic fundamental high school level English will suffice. And even the knowledge base does not matter more. They just care about the simple punctuations, comma, full stop, and hyphen, and even basic difference with the kind of English that we use. Let's say American or British English. For instance, the word realize, it has an S in British English, but it has a Z in American English. So even those candidates who write it in a different way, and if the kind of English that IBPS has in its portal, if that is different, then even students will be unfairly penalized. So that is the negative aspect of evaluating in that manner. So what I would suggest is just stick to the basic fundamentals of English, and there is no need to consider it as an opportunity to express yourself, like we do for UPSC essay or essays in your descriptive pattern exams. And also the portal that IBPS uses. Everybody knows that the portal is not very user friendly, and it may also happen that the center that a candidate has got, the quality of keyboards in the center is not of very good quality. So all these aspects also do matter. So what I would suggest is preparing fundamentally and being realistic about the whole process, because that's what worked out for me in NABARD mains, and thankfully I was able to clear NABARD mains. And I feel my approach changed after my experience with SEBI.
So basically, practice is the key, that you should make yourself fundamentally clear that you don't need to use some language or you want to express your English. Rather, you stick to the basics and complete your paper. The basic things should be done right. Plus practice. So as you mentioned, that quality of keyboards is not good. This is one thing we have been constantly hearing from the candidates who give this descriptive paper. So how did you practice? Because see, usually we have laptops at home. Most of the people, the keyboard of laptop is quite soft. While when you go there, the keys are quite not very friendly. So how did you manage that, or what would you like to suggest to the students?
So I have a very unique explanation for that. So I don't think it will hold good to many of the aspirants. So of course, like everyone, I also have a laptop at home, and I was preparing typing or whatever other aspects of descriptive English. But I also, since I'm a working candidate, and when I go to office, there is a computer there. It has a different keyboard. So that layout of the keyboard and also the nature of the keys, that was sort of similar to the keyboards given in IBPS exams. So that's why I had practice with writing, with typing with two different keyboards. So I didn't have that comfort zone of only using one laptop keyboard and getting used to it. So that's something which really helped for me. But if that's not the privilege, if you're not a working candidate, what I would suggest is that go for the traditional keyboards, not the laptop keyboard. But even if you're using a laptop, you can get one of those regular computer keyboards and just plug it in the USB and type with that. Because the keyboard used in IBPS centers is certainly not as smooth as laptop keyboards.
That's a very useful suggestion to the candidates who are planning to practice for descriptive paper, which you have to. So get a keyboard, Purana se keyboard, wherever you can find, just get it. And then even if you have a laptop, you can just use that and type everything so that you can have hands on the type of keyboard already. Because otherwise it becomes a problem there. First time you go with the myth ki bada acha sa keyboard we are gonna get, but there you don't get that. You have to understand. Yeah. Right. So I think this is about our phase 2 because we have discussed about paper 2 and descriptive. But one more thing I want to know, out of the subjects, all the subjects of paper 2, which was your favorite subject?
So my favorite subject was finance.
Finance.
Finance, and up to some extent you can say economics as well. Though I was more inclined towards the applied part of it. Since I was coming from a UPSC background, I had more inclination towards the application rather than the theory.
And which one subject, although you have mentioned that you found Companies Act driest subject, but with the one subject which you would want to eliminate, it should be not there.
So that would certainly be Companies Act only, definitely. But there is one more subject. I don't think it should be eliminated. It's actually a good subject. That would be management. So even if candidates do have fun while reading that subject, and it's very interesting to read into the applied aspects of it, still the level of questions asked in IBPS, they have been moving more towards the peripheral aspects of management only, and not from the core concepts of leadership motivation. So it's been this trend to ask from the peripheral areas and even the unknown or the obscure thinkers. So that's certainly a disadvantage for the people who are coming from non-MBA backgrounds. So I wouldn't say that the subject should be taken out. Management is a really nice subject, but with the kind of questions asked in the exam, it's certainly not very scoring. That's what I would say for sure.
And one more thing related to this only, Companies Act, how did you prepare? Because a lot of things have to be, you have to learn, cram up actually. So how did you make notes, or did you use multiple revisions, or you relied on mocks only for that?
So I did make notes, but only of those areas which I felt were my forte or which I could manage. So I don't think it's a very good strategy. I wouldn't advise for other aspirants, but I totally ignored that one part of Companies Act which had the penalties, how much penalties levied, or what is the jail term or whatever that the violators of Companies Act have to undergo. So I totally ignored that aspect, but I did cover religiously the other parts. Like there were certain aspects of NCLT and NCLAT, the chairman, members, and how the whole board structuring is done, and the fundamentals of companies. In private companies, how many members, minimum, maximum, and in government companies, what's the case, PSUs. And also, I had made notes extensively for the different kinds of forms. So anyone who studies Companies Act must be knowing that there are various forms that have to be filed by companies during, let's say, the IPO process or a refund of applications that have been rejected in IPOs. So there are various forms, and I made an exhaustive list of that, and I just relied on mugging up, and that's it, because I don't think there is any other alternative to studying.
And notes making is always a good strategy, because you, at least when you write something with your hands, there is an impression that goes to your mind only when you're reading. On the other hand, when you write it down, then you also want to revise it because it is written in your own handwriting. So you end up revising more. That is what I feel, because if you are only reading, on other hand, you have written it down and then you are revising it. So if you find anything difficult, students, you should, rather than just ignoring it or just delaying that I will make notes some other day near the exam, rather than that, you make notes. But as you can be picky, you can choose the parts you want to, and few you can leave, as Mr. Vikram did, right? So that might. So that is about our phase 2, I should say. Moving on to our phase 1, where we have discussed paper 2 already, although let's discuss about your paper 1.
Sure.
How did you practice your QRE GA part?
So actually, when I saw the notification and it was clearly mentioned that only the minimum cutoff will be there, 30% in paper 1. So that's when I decided that I don't have to prepare too much for QRE, English, and logical reasoning. So since already I had a banking and regulatory body background preparing for those exams, I felt that okay, even if my logical reasoning and quant is not very good, I can still cover up since it's only 30%, and I feel my English is more than enough to cover up in that case. So I just focused on only on general awareness, and I studied general awareness for 3 months, and that too only from one source. So with that, I was able to score 59 marks in out of 100 in paper one, and that was more than enough.
Although you like, I am hoping that your quant and reasoning was good, because you have given other exams also, as you were telling me, multiple government exams you have given.
That's true.
But for GA also, you scored well if you prepared that much. 3 months, would you suggest that 3 months shall be enough even this time, if SEBI is going to take place now? So 3 months, 4 months, or can even they go for even 6 months?
I feel again it depends upon what kind of approach will be followed by SEBI. For instance, again, I mean IBPS, not SEBI per se, but it's IBPS which sets the paper. So if we look at IBPS PO mains this year, they had mainly asked from December 2021. Out of the 40 questions, I think 20-25 questions were only from December. So by that logic, even 2 months would be enough. But again, they don't have a set pattern. But since it is only prelims, only phase one, that marks won't be counted eventually. And it's qualifying, and that too only 30% is required. So I would, I mean, I don't think it's a bad idea to just study 3 months, or maybe we can study it in depth and go for maybe two more sources. I mean, totally two different sources, and maybe study for an additional month, that is go back 4 months. But I don't think 6 months is actually necessary for SEBI prelims.
And would you also suggest making notes for GA, or reading shall be enough?
Again, that depends on the kind of GA. So if you just open the current affairs magazine of any institute and just go through the kind of snippets that will be given. So there are different kinds of news articles. So what I would suggest is, for me, my drawback was remembering the various kinds of committees that will be established for different purposes by Government of India. So usually they might ask the name of the chairman of the committee. So I made notes of that. And also India's ranking in certain indices, domestic, I mean international indices, and also domestic indices by Niti Aayog, which ranks the various states, and different sports. So since coming from UPSC background, I was not at all used to remembering sports news. So I felt that sports note making in sport event is required, and also different awards, different prizes. But that's all. I didn't go ahead and make notes of each and every current affair snippet that I came across.
So basically, students should know their strengths and even their weaknesses. That if they are not good in one subject, I am talking about paper one, QRE or GA, they can choose that, okay, this is the subject I will focus on. As you knew that your English is good, you can cover GA. QR was fine for you. Some students are good in quant reasoning, so they can balance out with GA and English. So this is where your analysis comes into the picture. That is the takeaway for you guys, right? So I think that is all about our phase one and phase two strategy. Now, before we move on to interview, I would want to ask that as you are a working candidate, you've got selected in SEBI while working for another organization. So how did you manage your time with your work and your studies?
So since I'm working in a government organization, the advantage is that we have fixed working hours. I mean, the concept of work from home does not apply to many government organizations. So we only have to be there in fixed working hours like 9 to 6 or 10 to 5. And there will be weekend holidays. And we also have a lot of leaves that we can avail, different kinds of leaves that we can avail. And also even public holidays also are a huge plus in, for people working in government organizations. So that certainly was a huge advantage for me since I worked in a government body. And also it was a home posting for me, as I said. So I live not very far from my house, I mean from my place of work. So all these factors certainly helped me balance my preparation with my work. So daily morning I used to study 1.5 hours before going to work, and in the evening after coming back I used to study for about 3 to 4 hours. and this helped me to finish the syllabus well beforehand. I was done with the syllabus by November itself, November 2020, and by the time prelims took place, I was able to revise about 10 to 12 times. And after prelims, I was actually wondering whether to study for those peripheral areas that Anchit sir had mentioned in one of his videos. But then I decided, okay, I won't go for that. I will just stick with the same stuff that I studied, the same syllabus, and I opted for the 5,000 MCQs course of EduTap. Also, my workload had increased after prelims in office because one of the people in our branch had got transferred, and there was no replacement for him yet. So the workload had to be divided among the few of us left. So that was an unexpected exigency, but I was able to manage it well because I had studied beforehand.
Vikram, I could not believe when you said that you did the revision 10 to 12 times.
I felt it was necessary because since I'm from non-commerce background, and commerce was something which I have not studied at all before this. Maybe other than that economics, Indian economy subject, it was totally unfamiliar for me. So that's why I decided to revise multiple times.
That is, I would say, thank you for mentioning that, because a lot of candidates are worried about coverage, that I will cover this more, cover that more. Coverage is one thing, but revision is just another. You are going in with incomplete preparation if there is no revision. And revision once, twice, thrice is not enough. I used to suggest that 5 to 6 times revision should be there. But here, a selected candidate is telling you that he himself revised 10 to 12 times. So that is what shall make a difference now, right? Revision is very important. And what about mock tests?
So mock test, I had gone for the 5,000 MCQ course by EduTap. And also I was a regular student of the All India mock test that was conducted free of cost by EduTap. So that's the only sources I referred for mock tests. And also I used to randomly search on the internet for a few not government exam, but CA exam preparation websites where they used to have few questions asked from the relevant subjects. So I just used to try and solve those. So I feel that is what helped me because ultimately it's not about doing mock test from only one source. We need to have more than one source at least for the mock test. So that's what I would suggest everyone to keep diverse sources for the mocks.
Chalo, glad to hear that. Now we shall move on to the final stage of your interview of SEBI. The interview for SEBI is of 15 marks, right? So how did you start the preparation for interview? Like, what was the first thing you noted down that, okay, this is what I need to do for my interview?
So the first thing I started when I got my mains result was I started reading newspapers, business newspapers. I mean, I was already reading the Hindu and Indian Express. That was had sort of become a habit from my UPSC days, and I continue it even today. But I decided I should read one dedicated newspaper from the which covers the business areas. So that covers the different developments in the business world, and also it helps to understand what kind of scams take place in the securities market. Some things which can be asked in an interview. So I decided to read Hindu Business Line. That's what that was my only other source, dedicated source. Also, I again decided to go through the phase 2 syllabus of very specific areas only, like in finance, there is debt markets, equity markets. So there were a lot of terminologies. So I decided to try and understand that terminology as well, which helped me be ready for the interview because I had learned that for non-commerce aspirants, they don't get too in depth in the technical aspects of the finance field, but at least superficial information from various areas is something that is required. So I just decided to go for that, and also I had given a EduTap mock interview as well. So those are the only things that I did for interview.
So reading a business newspaper, apart from the one newspaper, if you're not reading any newspaper, then you should start doing it even after just giving your meals. And business newspaper is important. You mentioned about Hindu Business Line, but there are also like Live Mint is there, Economic Times. You can pick that up also, right? Then second thing you mentioned is apart from reading newspaper, you also give a mock interview. and then brushing up your static syllabus, so that to have a good hold over the few topics, right? Could you please tell us few questions if you are able to remember any that were asked in your interview?
So my interview was mainly around my biodata and my work experience. So they had asked me my nature of work in SBI and in ESIC. And again, what do you as a mechanical engineer would like to bring to SEBI with your experience? And why would you want to join SEBI? And there were one or two questions from mechanical engineering, which I was not able to answer since it's been more than 5 years and I'm not in touch with subject. So I just said, I don't know. And they didn't prod me further on that. Also, they asked me a few current affairs based questions. And also, I think that was because I told them UPSC. So they got into very specific details about the banking sector. So they asked me what are payment banks, small finance banks, and they got very in depth in the topic. And some of the areas I was not able to answer. So my interview was very short. It hardly lasted for around 10 minutes. So mine was second last before the lunch. So they went in alphabetical order. And I feel that the ones who were at the later end of it, they had their interviews. The average time was much smaller compared to the ones whose interview was in the beginning. So I certainly felt that compared to the areas that I had covered for my preparation, the interview, the kind of questions asked in interview was not very of a very high quality. Because since I'm from non-commerce background, maybe they just wanted me to know few aspects of the interview.
They basically stuck to your work experience. What did you do in SBI, then ESIC, and even your biodata? You said, like, for example, your education. I think this is a kind of now cliche question that what as an engineer going to bring to this organization, right?
Absolutely.
It is quite a common question.
That's true. I don't think there is anything. Oh, sorry to interrupt you. I don't think there is need to answer any out of the box reply for that question. Just you can stick with the same old argument that any engineer would give, saying that an engineer can work in different areas, as we have seen. That's what everyone can see in today's India. Engineers are there almost everywhere. So we can say that we can give a well-rounded perspective to the organization, and we are analytical, and we can be a well-rounded generalist. So these aspects can be enough. There is no need to give any out of the box reply.
Thank you for answering, because that is what I was going to ask next, that what would you suggest on that? So that is a good answer. And of course, there is no need to give some extraordinary answer, because I was talking with one candidate. So he gave this answer that he wanted to revolutionize the IT part and all in the mock interview. So he was told in the mock interview that you should never do such things. No need to give such, because you cannot actually do. You have to be in the limits and work there. So be practical, right? So that is what you said with your own experience. So yes, that is I think that shall be it. That was a lovely conversation with you, Mr. Vikram.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It was a pleasure.
I would want to wish you all the very best. I hope you're going to do really good in SEBI as an officer, right? Because see, that why I'm saying this is you have this UPSC background, and any candidate who is preparing for UPSC has this mindset that I want to make policies, I want to make a change. That is what I think even SEBI, it is, you are going to sit there where you are going to make policies, right, someday.
That's true.
So all the best. And thank you so much for coming from all our students and all the members of EduTap team.
Thank you so much, man. Thank you for having me here. It was a great conversation to have.
Thank you.